Hey Simon Kids subscribers, I am James Riley, the author of Half Upon a Time, Story Thieves, Revenge of Magic, and my new series which is called Once Upon Another Time. It's a spin-off from Half Upon a Time. It takes place 12 years after that first series, and it's going to be another trilogy. I did an earlier video reading from this book, but the second book, which is called Tall Tales, will either be out soon or is already out, depending on when you're watching this in the future. So I'm going to read to you a little bit from Tall Tales, with hopefully not spoiling anything from the first book. Just to give you kind of a taste of what might be to come. The series is about a girl named Lena, who is a very short giant. She's based on the fairy tale of Thumbelina. She's only 5.5 feet tall, so she's had quite a life trying to fit in with the other giants and see like if they could accept her for who she is, because she doesn't want to hide any of that from her people any longer. So I don't want to give too much away of what happened in the first book, but Lena gaped as the cursed city vanished from all around her, replaced by a multicolored tile path leading toward what looked like the biggest tree she'd ever seen. So large it was bigger than the Golden King's castle, and far more beautiful. Enormous crystals shone throughout the branches, almost like they'd grown there. What had just happened? Where was Rufus? That's her pet cat. And just as important, where was she? And why was there a human-sized girl with golden skin and hair flying toward her on wings almost twice as big as the girl's body? Finally, the girl said as she landed, shaking her head. Even her clothes shimmered like gold, and for a moment, Lena was reminded way too much of the Golden King. You were almost late, and you have no idea how much they hate that. She looked Lena over, then frowned. Human? No, Lena said. Giant. The girl snorted, then stared at her more closely. Wait, you're not joking, are you? You're actually a giant? This conversation was bringing up far too many bad feelings for Lena to let it continue. Where am I? She asked, pushing to her feet. What is this place? Who are you? The girl sighed. Did the fairies not tell you any of this? So irresponsible. And I should know. I used to be one of them. She grinned smugly. Now I'm a fairy princess. Don't worry, you don't have to bow or call me your majesty or anything. But if you do, I wouldn't be mad. A fairy princess? Lena said, even more confused now. I thought fairies had queens. The golden girl rolled her eyes. We do, 11 of them, but there's been an open spot for a long time now, ever since one of them fell in love with the king of the merfolk. And because I did such great work with some of your kind, I meant humans, not giants, I got promoted. She put a hand above her head, and enlarged from regular fairy size. When I finally get to be fairy queen, they should add a few more feet of height. I don't... What? Lena said. What does this have to do with me? It doesn't. The girl sniffed. I don't even know who you are, tiny giant girl. I'm just here to bring you to the fairy queens, not to get your life story. She waited for Lena to follow her, then turned, leapt into the air, and began flying slowly toward the huge tree in the distance. The fairy queens want to see me? Lena asked, hurrying to catch up as she wondered what reason they could have for bringing her here. And then something horrible occurred to her. Is this because I'm... Spoiler. The fairy princess stopped in midair and turned around with wide eyes. Right, the giants. I hadn't really thought about that. She squinted at Lena, then raised an eyebrow. You don't seem evil. Slight spoiler. Are you hiding it or something? Not exactly, Lena said, her anger quickly returning. I just found out a few minutes ago, okay? Ah, don't worry, I won't judge, the fairy princess said, and resumed her flight. Who cares if you're made from evil magic, I say. That makes you 1,000 times more interesting than those boring regular humans. Oh, well then, if I'm more interesting, then I'm so okay with being made from... Spoiler. Lena growled sarcastically, and the fairy laughed. Definitely more interesting, she said. Anyway, most people end up here because they wished for something. What was your wish? My wish? Lena said, not sure where that question had come from. I don't have a... Oh, I guess I made one back in the cursed city. Wait, is that really why I'm here? The fairy glanced back over her shoulder. Usually, but who knows? You're the first giant who's ever been here, so it could be anything. I've met a few giants myself, by the way. One tried to eat me and the dangerously inept human I was guarding. Saving him over and over is what got me promoted. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Lena said, almost more confused now. Oh, thank you, the fairy said, stopping again to smile at Lena. Not enough people have sympathy for everything I went through with that human. Having apparently misinterpreted Lena's apology, the fairy princess shuddered. You can't even imagine, trust me. This is a reference to Half Upon a Time. Okay, Lena said, just to appease the girl. So if you don't know why the fairy queens wanted me, how did you know I'll be here? Oh, it's in the tales. T-A-L-E-S, not T-A-I-L-S. Everything's in that book. A book? Lena asked. You mean like a storybook? The fairy princess snorted. Those old things? Fairy queens stopped making them 100 years ago. I'd be surprised if any are still around now in the human world, though I do hear that some humans are making their own non-magical storybooks, almost like writers. So what is this Tales book, then. Only the sum total of everything that has happened and will happen, little giant, the fairy said proudly. It's the greatest creation of the fairy queens, an account of all the things you earthbound people get up to. Have you ever gotten a prophecy about anything? Lena winced, remembering the ridiculous prophecy her mirror had given her back before the Golden King's invasion. Sort of, but I didn't like it. Yeah, well, you people never do, the fairy said with a shrug. Always trying to escape your destiny. Oh, I'm not judging. I would too if I weren't destined for such great things. She grinned. The tales of all things is where those prophecies come from, and that's why you're here, because the tales said you needed to be. But you're not allowed to see the book yourself, so don't ask. She gave Lena a closer look. Unless you ask nicely and call me your majesty. In that case, maybe I'd sneak you in to see the book. That's okay, your majesty, Lena said, and the girl beamed. Wow, that really does suit me, she said. So you didn't tell me your wish. It wasn't anything that impressive. You wanted to find your prince, right? The fairy said. That's what most people wish for, prince or princess. They say it's true love, but really they just want to marry royalty and get rich. It's all a scam. Lena crinkled her nose. No, I didn't wish for anything like that. The fairy raised an eyebrow. Seriously? Nothing but a prince? Princess, then? No, neither, Lena said, shaking her head. I don't care about that stuff. It's never, I don't know, I just wasn't ever interested in people that way. Oh, giant girl, you're the most fascinating creature I've met in years, the fairy said, her eyes lighting up. You've got to tell me your wish now. Lena looked away. It's not going to happen, so it doesn't matter. Look where you are. This is the fairy homelands, and you don't just show up here to have your wish not granted. Tell me. Lena bit her lip, then nodded. I wished for humans and giants to not hate and fear each other, okay? The fairy just stared at her for a moment, then burst out laughing. No way, really? You'd probably have a better chance with a prince or princess, honestly. Anger erupted in Lena's chest, and she had to stop herself from grabbing the fairy by her golden dress, shaking her until she stopped laughing. You asked, and it's not funny. The fairy stopped laughing abruptly, and she sighed. You're right, I did ask, and it's not funny, no, it's just, I've met humans, and I've met giants, and neither one seems smart enough to get along with the other. Lena couldn't deny that, so she just stayed silent. The fairy mercifully did the same, and they continued their journey toward the tree. Except just as they reached it, the entire land shifted, like someone had turned a page and replaced the tree with a castle made entirely of crystal, almost too stunning to look at. Lena covered her eyes with her forearm as the sunlight shone through every facet of the castle, struggling to see where the fairy princess was. Fortunately, the fairy grabbed her sleeve and helped guide her. Sorry about that, the fairy said. It likes to show off at the worst possible moments. What likes to show off? The castle, of course. And with that, she led Lena over a drawbridge and inside the crystalline castle. As they went, the scene shifted again, now revealing an ocean view just outside the windows, where before there had been only trees and fields. What is this place? Lena asked, not able to hide her amazement. I know, it's impressive, the golden fairy said. Most fairies have to work their whole lives to even be allowed in the homeland, so you're pretty lucky to see it. We should hurry, though, so you're not late. That would be my fault now, as I shouldn't have gotten so distracted by you. They reached a pair of enormous doors, and the golden fairy knocked quietly, almost too silent to hear. But the doors instantly pushed open, revealing an enormous room made entirely from crystal, with 12 thrones arranged in a semicircle. 11 of them were occupied by impossibly tall, majestic creatures that had to be the fairy queens, even though none of them had wings like the princess who'd brought her here. Good luck, the fairy said. By the way, I didn't get your name. Lena, she whispered, then without even thinking about it, followed up with, what's yours? Gwentel, the golden fairy said with a strange sort of smile. Hope to see you again, Lena. Now go have your wish fulfilled, or whatever it is that brought you here. Lena nodded, too nervous to say anything else, then stepped into the throne room. All 11 women stared down at her without even a hint of warmth, and Lena couldn't help but be reminded of how the King of Giants had looked at her so coldly during the spark ceremony. The fairy queens had told Thomas Giant... Whoops, spoiler. Was she there to be punished for this? Sent back to the clouds and never allowed to leave? She bowed low, not sure what else to do. Your manners serve you well, little giant, a fairy queen in blue said from the center of the semicircle. We apologize for the manner of your arrival, but our need is desperate, and you are the only one who can help us. You must stop the last knight before he dooms the entire world. So that's a little bit from Tall Tales, and if you have read Once Upon Another Time, you might kind of get an impression where the series might be going now. So I hope you give them a try, and I hope you like them. And if you want to see more authors reading and discussing their works, subscribe and get notified of new videos on Simon Kids every day. Thank you so much. This is James Riley. It's great to talk to you.